Hey everybody. So the question, can we just push on through to a new all-time high? It's possible. I mean, anything's possible, right? Anything's possible in the market. The market can do whatever it is it wants to do. All I'm doing is trying to figure out the highest probability thing. Highest probability thing after we do one big move like this is to come back down here. More often than not, we see that kind of price action. Saw it right over here. We came up and retraced. Now, it could come up here before we retrace. That's entirely possible. Just means the retrace is going to be bigger. Much bigger. If we come all the way up there, it still puts us all the way back down here to 5,300. That's a crazy pullback. All right. So be careful out there. The high probability thing is to pull back. This is a lower probability thing to come up here. And if we do that with one big move up off the lows, it's likely to be the last move. And we go into a crash scenario. It's just the likely thing that happens. Now, how high do we go before we do that? That's a good question, but we've got a full count right now. These things have gotten over their skis. Today's a big OPEX. I said we might hover right at the top of the box until Friday OPEX. Why? Because there were an absolute ridiculous number of puts bought down here on the way up. An absolute ridiculous amount of puts. And they were mostly short-term puts. People weren't looking out very far. It was mostly short-term stuff. And a lot of that's going to roll off the market today. In fact, look at this. This is crazy right here. Look at this. Look at this right here. Weekly Friday options. It went from being just a little blip right in here, and we've ramped it up big time the last couple of months right here. These are quarterly. Look at the dailies, how popular those have gotten. Daily options, absolute massive. This is all just on the S&P 500. So we've seen a lot of popularity in playing those. Now month end, which is what we've got today, look at how big that is compared to the little blip it's been. Right there, we're getting a bunch of those month end options, which is expiring today. They expire on the third Friday of the month. You know, all the way back when when options first started getting popular, monthlies is what we had. We didn't even have it on very many stocks. All right. Then we picked up weeklies along the way. Yeah, that's been like 20 years ago. And now we've got dailies on some stuff. We'll get dailies on more stuff as we rock and roll along. They're talking about introducing it on Tesla, maybe Nvidia, maybe a couple others. Maybe. We'll see. So be careful out there. All right. It's funny. Third Friday. That's the standard monthly option right there. Month end options. So S&P has a different, flavor, I guess you might say, than some of the other options. Anyway, we get lots of those options rolling off the market today. Lots and lots. And I don't have one of those handy dandy, like so many $1 trillion notional. I saw a figure, it was like 3, but I don't have a calculation for it that I can just pull up and be like, here's what we got. So that's why I didn't throw it in the title, didn't throw it in the description. We're just edged up right here, and a pullback very likely to the roadmap line at the minimum. The higher we go, the bigger the pullback. All right. There's no like OPEX just is options just rolling off. Usually we see price kind of hold still or go in the direction that can cause the most damage to the most people. It's called max pain theory. So if you've got a bunch of people long puts going higher, causes max pain on the puts. If you got a bunch of people long calls, we see price go down or hold steady to create max pain. So it's max pain theory. It doesn't always, like, as far as tradability goes, I don't use that. Like, I just kind of keep track of it in my mind. So, and, got lots of interesting things going on. And, as far as leverage ETFs go, some of them play options, some of them don't. Some of them do complicated things with futures. It's very, 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 very varied. It's a wide gamut of how each kind of, I guess, each company, like you have ProShares, you have lots of brands. All right. There's brands of ETFs. ProShares, very popular brand, as you can see, TQQQ, SQQQ, short Bitcoin, long Bitcoin, ultra S&P, natural gas. So ProShares, that's a popular ETF company. All right. That's what they do. They make ETFs, sell them to the public, and manage them. And they do it in, there's, European market, German market, Indian market. ProShares is all over the world. All right. All over the world managing ETFs. There's other ones. There's like iShares. You can see they have tons and tons and tons of ETFs. That's BlackRock. All right. That's BlackRock's brand. There's also Van Eck, another popular one. There's can't remember. Trying to remember. There's the Defiance. And generally, these brands kind of sort of manage their ETFs in a similar manner. All right. It's not always the same. Like if you're managing one for MicroStrategy, you might do it different than one you were managing on Mag 7 or on NASDAQ 100 income. How do you know what they're doing? They create this document called a prospectus, and you have to go check it out and look at it. And for example, if you look at IBIT, which is a Bitcoin trust, they call it, basically the only thing they do here is just buy Bitcoin. You can go to iShares and look it up. And manage cookie required only. Why IBIT? And you're like, how do I look up the prospectus, right? How do I find it out? How do I find out what they're doing? And it's like, well, and then the other question, the flip side, what's the easy way? How do I just know what they're doing? You don't, all right? Unless you go spend the time to look it up. So if you're into something for a long time, highly recommend you go down to the literature. There is always, you can't have an ETF without a prospectus, all right? Always, 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 you have to have one of these. You pull it up, and it tells you how they manage this money. When you put your money in, it tells you what happens. It's a long document. It's 109 pages for this one. All right. It's a lot of details. A lot of people don't want to know all that. You can use AI to read it for you. It may or may not help. All right. You can ask the AI questions. Like, how do they manage the money? We now have that ability to use AI as a tool to help us break that down faster. All right. Now, you go to something else like BITO, this one, ProShares Bitcoin ETF. You're like, okay, how is this different? You go get the prospectus. All right. Find out what they're doing. How do they manage it? They have NAV and they have market price. There's a lot of details. What do they hold? You can see here's the holdings right there. And then down here somewhere, there's going to be a prospectus, probably on another tab or button, whatever. Yeah, it's all right up here at the top. Dun, 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 dun. Summary prospectus, statutory prospectus. All of them have a prospectus. It tells you all the information. All right. There's no two the same. Like maybe like I think it's like even VOO, which is Vanguard's S&P 500 ETF, and SPY, which is Spider's S&P 500 ETF, are managed completely different. Maybe similar, but they're managed differently by different people with different ideas on how to do it. All right. And VOO is actually bigger than SPY. A lot of people go to SPY as the default, but VOO is actually bigger, much bigger. Come over here. Look at it. Look, Vanguard, S&P, VOO, right there. $1.3 trillion. Come on down the list. IVV is bigger. That's BlackRock's bigger than SPY. And then here's Spider's right there. Everybody's like, you just trade to trade the S&P, you trade SPY. It's the smallest out of 3 ETFs that track the S&P 500. If you wanted to be with the biggest, VOO would be where you would go. Right there. All right. Anyway, those are not leveraged. You know, some of the leveraged ones, much smaller funds. Much smaller funds. There's caveats, there's exceptions, and the market's open. Let's go check it out. Squeaking higher just a little bit. Lots of rhetoric, lots of mainstream media talking about how we're going above 6,000. Sets it up so good to fail to hit it too. Be careful out there. We're grinding higher. Right at the top of the orange box I drew on here. Right into the tails of all this support. Right across here. Where we tested into, and then busted through. So now we're right at the bottom of that. Be careful. We don't have to pull back. We can go higher. But we might violently pull back. It's like, which tick is going to be the high tick? It's always hard to tell, but this is not it's not conducive price action to continuation. All right, trend pullback continuation trader, it's just a move. It's not a trend. So be very careful. Russell sitting here at this resistance. If we spike that 618 of the whole drop, can be detrimental to the upside. CL pulling back up overnight. Actually saw I saw a claim of this somewhere. I don't even remember. I don't watch news, so I don't know where I saw something talking about how it popped up off the lows. We're sitting right there on that 618. I think yesterday I talked about that. If we can hold that, turn back higher, breakouts through the resistance, be looking higher. If we get below it, I'll be looking down for possibly another lower low. You may be like, well, what are some ways to play it? You could play it with SCO, short oil to the downside, or UCO is ultra long to the upside. Those are ways to play. GC, taking it back. Taking it back today. Choppy. Still could go lower low here. I did go long yesterday in the pre-market because it hit my ideal target. Fired off a bunch of alerts. First move up, retrace. Look at it on the lower time frame. Dun. Actually, when you look at that on that daily, we actually came up very close. Very close to the top where I had this right here. Very close. And then the bottom here is very close. It's just happening very fast. So we could see a next pop right up there. And look at that. Look how it move up, retrace. down to a 618. Could see this pop on up. Here's the low, here's the high, here's the low. And if we do the next move, it puts us right in the spot, right up in here. Watch for that move. Then we set up the potential bigger down if we do that. What bigger down? It's right here. So if this is all going fast and we get up here, but we do it over here, doesn't matter. Time-wise is the hardest part. Time prediction. Like I said, this could take longer. It could go faster. So we could see this plummet out. We could see it. And it could just decide not to do this at all. Like, it's possible that this is all wrong and we don't do that at all. So far, it's going right down the path. Right down the path. Bitcoin just consolidating or consolidating. We're sitting right under that 105 level where concerns me that we're going to get a bigger retrace. Just like the S&P, this has pushed it up to an extreme without much of a... This one has no retrace whatsoever. We didn't even do a crazy... Like on the S&P, we did a giant big move up and a retrace that freaked a bunch of people out. Then we made this next move. On Bitcoin, we didn't even do that. We just went one big rip. One big rip right up off the lows. And we're just sitting there. Highly likely we're going to see some sort of retrace. And this would be healthy. If we just go busting out right now, this increases the odds that this is the final move before we go into crypto winter. Without a big pullback or a nice pullback, it could even be a one-day pullback. Without that, it increases the odds that the next move we do is the final push higher on Bitcoin before we go into crypto winter. That'll last a couple of years. Crypto winter, maybe like, what's crypto winter? Let me remind you from back here. This is crypto winter. Right here. Maybe like, well, how do you know that's going to happen? Because we've seen it a couple times before already. All right. It's where we pull back 70%, 80% on Bitcoin. Happens every 4 years. So if we don't do any kind of pullback right now and we just push higher, highly likely we're going to push into the end of this run on Bitcoin. And we may come up short of the target. If we just push higher now, we may meet some sort of bullish exhaustion and head down. Downside, probably down in the 40s. It's just likely price action. All right, after watching this over and over and over. Same sort of thing on Ethereum. We need some sort of pullback to maintain a healthy upside. NKD, I got an alert last night before I went to bed that this was poking out the bottom. If this gets down below, coming on down here. And the S&P and NASDAQ, maybe Bitcoin will all follow suit. I use this as a proxy to global liquidity. Dollar still hovering in the channel. I still expect this to rally up here. If it breaks down, probably come back down to the 618 again, probably make a lower low than what we made right back here a couple weeks ago in April. And if we can break out above here, like a break out of the channel and get above that, we may just go spike that daily roadmap line up there. Otherwise, we'll probably stay in this channel probably through next month as we grind on up in there. That's kind of the breakdown. Quick flush down here, somewhere around 98. Break out, quick pop up to 104. And otherwise, we're just going to grind right up this way. Look at the Mag 7 stuff. which is the biggest companies here. Apple, we've got resistance cooking right up here at the roadmap line. Just cooking right there. Got Amazon, that's showing a little weakness, coming back down a little bit. And if this gets below that, we could see a bigger move back down into these lows. So far, that's 1, 2, 3 up. 3 up is continuation will be down. So this was the trend. This was the bigger move right here. This is a correction of that move. Continuation would be down. Be careful. Careful chasing Amazon. Google, same. This one could be done consolidating because we made a lower low here. We did make a higher high, but this could be one big correction and be done. We don't see that so much on some of the other charts. Now, it also could be this is the move down, this is the correction, and we could get continuation lower. Both of those are possible. It could be done and could be getting ready to break out. It's been struggling quite a bit here since we did earnings a couple weeks ago. It's just been struggling, consolidating right under that roadmap line, right under that 618 resistance. If we can get above all that, we can see some upside. We do have a gap down right here that may reject off of temporarily if we're going bullish. Meta popped up, but hasn't been able to maintain that bullish action. It may come back, retest the daily roadmap line, especially if we get a bigger pullback in the markets. Could come back all the way down here. This is just 1, 2, 3 up. The bigger move is down. So that could be a correction up and a continuation lower. Could be. Need to be very, very careful here on Meta, especially if you cannot withstand a bigger pullback or even a lower low. If you're positioned to not be able to take that, be careful. Microsoft, this one looks like we finished up this correction. We did this first move down. We did the second move down. Very proportional. Working on the reversal. We're kind of stuck at this prior high. Trying to push through. Trying. Right there. If we can get through, probably coming on up to 49,500 up there. NVIDIA. Pushing the luck here. We need to make a high. Higher than that high. To confirm one more confirmation level that we're going higher. We spent some time in the zone of ambiguity. We popped up with some gusto. That's an initial indication we're going higher. There are a ton of 140 calls that have been bought. Right there. And if we can push through those, probably going on up here. Now, if you wanted a leverage way to play, you could play with SOXX. You could play with USD. You could play with SOXL. Right there. That'd be some ways to play. If you didn't want to go all in on NVIDIA and you wanted some alternate ways to play. TSLL, or Tesla. TSLL is a way to play leveraged Tesla. This is coming up into that 618 resistance. For a while, I've said I expected a pop up to possibly 380. And then maybe a retrace. Now, if we just go ripping through, probably coming on up, maybe 700 would be the upside. On up there. All right. I go pull gainers. I go, which is everything moving $2 or more up in the pre-market. I go pull decliners, which is everything moving $2 or more down in the pre-market. And something that was amusing to me, we had Lilly as the #1 gainer. And then down here at the bottom of the decliners, we had NVO bookended. I just thought it was funny. I saw, when I was poking through this morning, we have Nora Novodisk's CEO to depart after this large bearish move right here. Getting lots of pressure from the board that the stock price has been beaten down, and they're not too fond of that. So he's stepping out, moving out of the way. Now, I also brought some setups. These are my signature pattern that is set up for an entry today. And this high, this low, right there, 75.45 upside target right there on air. It did not pick up the trading view. This is better than average here. Almost two. This is almost one I would get. I'm looking for more than 30 trades because that's a statistical population. Then I'm looking for more than 80% here. That's good. And then I want better than 2 here, which is 1.9 is pretty close. Highly likely we see this rally on up. 75.45 upside target. I take AAR. AIR. There you go. AIR. Oh, that was right. That's air. Yeah, that was right. 75.45. I saw AAR. CB. Number 2. That high, that low. There's the entry. 313 targets. Now this one. Good here. Below average. Net loser. I wouldn't take this. CWCO. Nah. Downtrend. Not when the trend is down, which hard to argue that for the last almost year, this has been going down. This would be a counter trend trade and need higher highs to get to the target. That doesn't seem the most high probability thing for me. FDL. First Trust Morningstar. There's the high. There's the low. Here's the entry. Target 45.44. 21 trades. So these numbers don't matter. You know, this not statistically significant, so those don't matter. We go fall back to the standard 75% and 1.28 profit vector, which is pretty close to what those actually were. So this is a pretty average one. Upside potential right there at 45. MPK. That one doesn't look good. It picked up this little baby move right there for a 93 upside. But that doesn't look like the kind of stuff I want to get involved in. In REF, another one that's kind of been downtrendy, making lower lows. Is this a reversal? I don't know. I would be interested in this big up, that one. Then you look at these numbers down here and no statistical significance, and that just looks like a choppy hot mess. RGCO. There's the high, there's the low, there's the entry, and 23.49. This one, pretty nice actually. 31.87, little light. Might pop that right there. 23.49. It's not a big move though. Not a big move. YSG. Here's the high, here's the low. One trade in the history, so might or might not work. 653 with the upside. And the ZI, that's interesting. It's interesting. It pulled data, but then it has nothing. Huh. Weird. 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 Moving on. Back to the other opportunities for the day. Still kind of expecting downside here. Now the S&P's been up and this has been down, getting beat down a bit. UNH, I sold a put yesterday for today at 200, and that looks like, unless something crazy happens, that's going to go out for full profit. ADBE coming back up to the roadmap line. Be careful. This was a target, but I also have a bigger downside target down here. Longer, bigger term. This could just be, remember the downtrend thing, that lower high, continuation, can get continuation right down there. This is a big downtrend. We've actually been in a downtrend since back here on Adobe. Lower high, lower high, lower high. You get lower low fairly easily here. Charter, communication. Oh, look at that, spicy. That one worked out. Boom, right to the target. We talked about that a couple weeks back. I drew it on here, so STZ, Constellation Brands, very similar to Adobe here. We could see some further downside. Now, that could be a measured bounce if we get through this downtrend of highs. Could see this pop up to 460 up here. Spotify still has the upside target up there at 683. Kicked off back here. You're like, I want to get into this now. You're kind of late to the party. We only have that limited upside left before we might do another pullback. Coin. Firing off the entries. 396 potential upside here. There was a report yesterday about him getting hacked. Caused a little pullback, but hard to fight the chart setup. VST. That one, same situation. Upside 224. GE Veranova, upside 486. PTIR is just PLTR. Liberty Broadband, targets, watch for a pullback. TSSI. That's going to fire off the entry today. If we get the close here, 22 on the upside. Google, we already kind of talked about. Resistance coming up here, top W. Not enough of anything to work with here. ETHU coming up pretty strongly. It's a 2x leverage on Ethereum. If Ethereum can get its act together, break out above the roadmap line, we could see some upside. SAP is the wrong one. We need the US version. Right there. There's. So we fired off the entry here, and we hit the target here. The expectation. Now, we did this little pullback. We retested, held the breakout level kind of, even though we tested into it. The next extension can take us to the 1272, 312, and then we may retrace again before we push on up like this. Or at any point in here, we could break down and come back to the roadmap line. So high probability trade, that's done, finished up right there. As far as the next move, it's hard to guess at this point. Retrace would be my preferred expectation. Liberty Broadband hitting targets. The bigger pullback, we still have an upside to 107.38. That's interesting. This LBRDK, and then we have LBRDA, different series shares probably. CEG. This one's looking ripe for a pop to 393 potentially right up there. Royal Caribbean potential to 299 right up there. AMD, watch out for a pullback. This is into resistance. We do have the bigger move on up here to 150 that we're gonna have to clear before we go up big. Be like, well, I'm in it for 30 bucks upside. Be careful, that can easily retrace pretty big too and stick you in it for a while. TNXP, dumpster fire, reverse split 1 for 100. It's absolute garbage. Wouldn't touch it with your money, my money, mom's money, anybody's money. Reddit. So the trend, big down, retrace, holding at resistance. Continuation would be lower. Be careful. Careful, be careful. We've got resistance all the way up here. We had a couple gaps down, gap downs right in there. See that white space right there? That's a gap down. There's another one right in there. So lots of resistance right there. That's people that were buying and got caught holding, and they probably doubled down. And when we get up in here, they just want to get out, and may cause a pullback, and it could push it to lower lows. RGTX. And there's a 2x long on RGTI. Like, there's more of these all the time. There's Rigetti Computing, and RGTX is a 2x leverage on it. If you're like, hey, how do I find a big list of leverage ETFs? Well, if you go to TradingView, go to the, not on the charts. Super charts is a product. So the charts is a product. But if you come in here, you go to markets. If you're on the homepage, you come down and you can go to ETFs right down here. You click on any of these and bring up this cool little thing here. And then you have like the inverse ones, and you have the leveraged ones. You can look at Bitcoin ones and Ethereum ones. And if you're just, like, I want to see some that don't match any of these bubbles, you can create your own list right here. And you can roll down through here and check them out and find ones that match stuff. And if you're like, well, I don't know. I just, it's like, is there something for AVGO? And you can type AVGO here. And you're like, well, oh, look here. AVL and AVS right down there. Dexerion, which is another brand. And Defiance has one right there. There's another leverage product right there. It doesn't tell you who the manager is on that one. So there you go. You got several potential options. You can just use the search tool right here inside. And if you want to only trade pro shares and there's no pro shares, I mean, that's life, right? Like, sometimes you can go with what you want, and sometimes you don't get what you want. So Core Weave, that one's an absolute beast. Don't really have enough candles to do much of anything with this at all. It went down to the lowest low. We don't have the chart over here before it became public. That pullback is hitting a potential resistance. Doesn't mean it can't go even higher, because we don't know what happened over here. Like, maybe this was a bigger pullback after going, bigger up, bigger pullback that could lead to a bigger upside. I don't know. Typically, we do see it go below the IPO price, which we already did. Makes it difficult to predict where we're going here. Restoration Hardware, upside resistance at the roadmap line. INZY, upside, well, there we popped above it. So, this is absolute pile of garbage. Big down, big down. I would not touch this. I don't touch biotech pharma in general, so. Estee Lauder. Funny enough, Michael Burry, of The Big Short, sold everything but bought Estee Lauder. Sold all his other stock holdings, bought. This is the one thing he added in whatever it was, Q1. Whatever quarter they just reported their 13Fs for. Now, looking at Estee Lauder, big move up, big retrace, potential measured bounce. This could set up a giant upside. Another one of those. We've got several of these in the market right now that have this crazy potential to do some absolutely crazy stuff. That would be crazy numbers. Look at that. Just buying a share might be worth it right there. Absolute crazy potential. It's like 3,000% upside. Just nuts. Nuts numbers. Unfathomable. That probably won't work, but crazy. The crazy potential. ALK, Alaska Group. And potential for that to pop. Couldn't hold the breakout though. So this is back testing from below. May break down and go lower. Very, very careful about this pattern. I don't like the fact that we popped up and then broke back through, and now we're back underneath. It's like a fake out right there, and this may actually go lower. And the lower target would be lower than that low back there at 22-ish. DKS. Still working on the correction here. We're probably... I got that low, 618. Probably going to go lower. My target expectation would be a move down here, or we can find support and go higher again. Stuff that was declining, glob. That's lowest low. Jeez, who would have seen that coming? You see, we were in a downtrend. We corrected up. And this might go on down in the 50s or 60s before we find a bottom. It could come back to this COVID low over here. DFCS working on a correction like I keep talking about. When we get this crazy spike up, we get a crazy move back down. Where's the supports? It's a good question. We do have some support right here, right where we're at. And if we bust through that, we could see it come on down in here where this consolidation was, right over here. Applied materials. So to put on that one yesterday for earnings. Let's see. I don't even remember what strike I did. Let's see. What did I do? What did I do? Did 157.50. So yeah, that one looks like give my money. Unless it just does something crazy this afternoon, and then if it does, probably buy some shares. I won't book it for a loss. I'll take the shares and flip those around. So support on this next move would be right back down here. And this is that one big move up off the lows, just like so many other things. Possible to come back down to that 140 area right there. ACN. Resistance at the roadmap line to go higher. EPAM. Resistance at the roadmap line to go higher. GLD. Churning a little bit. VAVX. Churning a lot. Ugly. Just back to where we started 2 days ago. GDXU. Back to the roadmap line. Let's look at GDX. Yeah, GDX could go a little lower here to that support. Then we could see a retrace and then bigger down. TVTX. High, that low, kicked off the entry, retraced the roadmap line, possible to go up to 2780. Shiny, Nugget, AEM, probably come back to the roadmap line, NVO, hunting the bottom here. We did tag the targets, came up a little shy of the ideal level at 55, 54, 55. That move up off the low, current retrace, we would look for this to hold 6180. if it can. Bigger upside potential back to 84 area on MVO. All right, buys for the day. Still grinding. That's kind of the name of the game we've had going on here for a few days. And for whatever reason, the fib lines I keep drawing on here keep disappearing. I've said for a few days now that we have resistance at this 59, 70, possibly even higher slightly. Expected to pop that. In fact, I have that alert set there for that very reason. Expecting that to pop and hit that. Now we might come up short, but my primary expectation is for a retrace to set up. Bigger, deeper retrace, several hundred points. I've just been like a broken record on this for a while. It's possible to jump on up to this level in the futures before that bigger move kicks off. But at this point, it's just a wait and see. I keep doing bullish trades, but I'm booking out profit and sitting in a lot of cash. So be very, very careful out there. The account you save may be your own. We'll be back again. Same bad time, same bad channel on Monday, 9:15. We'll go through it all again and see if we can't find something. Have a great day, everybody.